supposed to do is label the point pi over 12. And what I want to remind you guys about is that the point pi is right on the 180 degree mark, but we're not going to talk in degrees anymore. We're just going to talk now in radians. So this would represent pi radians from 0 all the way around the circle, or halfway around the circle is pi. Therefore, if I split that up into 12 pieces, like if I had a circle here, and I split this up into, well, now it's split up into 2 pieces. But let's say I want to split it up. So, okay, I took this from 0 to pi and split it up into 2 pieces. That would be this piece right here. I'm just going to fill this circle in, and I'm going to use this. So, there. And now I want to split from 0 to pi up into 12 pieces because I need a 12th of that. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 12th one will be right here. So now I have split, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And now if I sectioned all of these off, which I'm not going to do because it would take forever, well, no, it won't. 1, 2, 3, all of these pieces like this. How many pieces would I have? Yes, I would have 12 pieces of pi if I cut it at all these points. And so what I did was I sectioned this half of the circle off into 12 pieces. And the reason I did that is because I'm asked to label a point pi over 12. Well, if this is pi, then a 12th of that, because it's like saying pi times 1/12, is pi over 12. So the pi over 12 will be the first little chunk of that pi. Now, what you're being asked to do is you're being asked to find the coordinates of that specific point. Now, if you remember, we learned in class a couple days ago that every single point, no matter what, on a circle can be written as the cosine of that point, angle, and in this case the angle is pi over 12, comma, the sine of that pi over 12. And so if you think of it this way, then all you have to do is pull out your graphing calculator, put it in radians mode like your book asks you to, and find out what they are. And what I got, rounded to the nearest decimal, is 0.97, comma 0.26. That means that, now I'm going to just write this off to the side. What that's telling me is that the cosine of pi over 12 is 0.97, because another way of writing cosine pi over 12 when I work it out is 0.97, and that the sine of pi over 12 is 0.26. And so another way for me to write sine of pi over 12 is just to write 0.26. And if you look at these coordinates, let's get a little drawing tool. The x amount is about 0.97. Yeah, it goes almost all the way to the edge there. 0.97, that seems reasonable. The y is 0.26, and that is about a quarter of the way up to this 0.1. So that makes perfect sense. Now, the part I had trouble with when I was looking at your assignments was I noticed that then in part B it says use that information to find the sine of negative pi over 12. And you all just used your calculator. but you weren't told to use your calculator. You were told to use that information. So what they wanted you to do, and what I would like you to do over again, just to make sure you understand this, is I want you to use this information, use this point in the information that you now have. The cosine of pi over 12 is 0.97. The sine of pi over 12 is 0.26. You're going to use that information in the unit circle to find out what the sine of negative pi over 12 is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look, where's negative pi over 12? Here's positive pi over 12. So negative pi over 12 is just going to be underneath the 0 line. Now what can you tell me about sine and cosine in this quadrant? We wrote all these down. Cosine in this quadrant is positive. Sine in this quadrant is negative. So I'm going to use this information, and sine is negative, so I'm going to look up here. Sine of pi over 12 is normally 0.26, but because I'm down here, the sine of pi over 12 is now what? Yes, it's negative 0.26. So the sine of pi over 12 is negative 0.26. Now we're going to use that information. Let me just make this a little bit bigger because you might not be able to see it. There we go. All right, so here's the answer to that first one, and I am going to have you talk with your team about this. The cosine of 13 pi over 12 is what you want to look for now. The cosine of 13 pi over 12. Well, here's 1 pi over 12. If I count around, I have 2 pi over 12, 3 pi over 12, 4 pi over 12, 5, 6 pi over 12, 7 pi over 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pi over 12. Remember, that's the same 12 pi over 12. The 12s would cancel out and you just have pi. And so 13 pi over 12 is going to be the next one down. 12 pi over 12, 13 pi over 12. And what do I know about this quadrant? I know they're both negative here. Cosine is negative and sine is negative. But I still have the same angle. My angle is still the pi over 12 angle, because this angle here still makes an angle of pi over 12. It's just that now if I'm looking for the cosine of this angle, 13 pi over 12, it's exactly the same as the negative cosine, because I'm in the negative, of pi over 12. So the answer here is also going to be negative 0.26. And so that's how they wanted you to do number 890. For 891, they didn't want you to use a graphing calculator at all. They didn't want you to use a calculator at all. They simply wanted you to use the unit circle and the information given. And in this particular problem, the information they gave you originally is that the cosine of alpha is equal to 8 over 17. That's all they give you. Now, many of the teams figured out that if I think of this as a angle right here of theta, or alpha in this case, I guess, put that right here. If I just drop this down and make it into a nice 90-degree angle, that by definition cosine means adjacent over hypotenuse. And so what I'm going to do is label those. So adjacent is 8 and hypotenuse is 17. Now, many of the teams figured out that I can use Pythagorean theorem to figure out what this side opposite is, and it turns out to be 15. Once I know that, now I can just use this information. The sine of alpha equals opposite, which is 15, over hypotenuse, which is still 17. So there's the answer. Didn't use my calculator, didn't use anything to do that. Next problem. Sine of alpha plus pi. Remember, pi is a halfway trip around the circle. So now if I go alpha, I'm up here, and now I have to go exactly halfway from that point around the circle. To do that, I'd end up right here. So I went alpha, and now I'm going to go pi radians around the circle. Just use your imagination, pretend that matches up. And notice that I still have an angle of alpha here. Remember, I have vertical angles you learned in geometry class. So the measurements are going to be the same. It's just that the sign will be different this time. So this is still going to be 15 here. This is still going to be 17 here. And this is still going to be 8. It's just that that 8 and that 15 are both going to be negative. So the sine of alpha plus theta, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That's going to just be negative 15 over 17. I didn't use a calculator. I didn't put anything into my calculator. I'm just looking at those triangles in the circle. Cosine. Okay, so this time I'm looking at cosine. So I'm looking at an 8 over 17. I already know that. But this time I'm going 2 pi minus alpha. Remember, 2 pi is one complete trip around that circle. So let me grab a different color, and I'm just going to make one trip around the circle. Here I go. I'm almost there. Let's use our imagination, pretend I can trace properly. And 2 pi. Now I'm going to subtract alpha from that, so I end up back here. Guess what? Same exact angle. It's still alpha. But the thing that's changed now is this is going down, negative 15. But everything else is still the same. This is still positive 8. This is still positive 17. So the cosine is still 8, which is adjacent, over 17. And that, my friends, is how they wanted you to do that problem. And by the way, this should be a 17. So hopefully that clarifies it. I am not going to grade these. I think you all tried your hardest and did an awesome job. And there were actually 2 groups, so I think I'll probably just give you extra credit because you did it right. You didn't use your calculator to just plunk in the problems. But the rest of you, I'm just not going to score it because you didn't get what you needed out of that. What I'm going to ask you to do today, what the sub will ask you to do, she's going to pass out a review sheet because I feel like you guys really need to review some of these things. It's a packet and it's stapled together, and what I've done is I've given you 3 examples and then some problems to work out. And then you're going to draw a unit circle with your team and answer as much as you can about it. So good luck. Thanks for hanging in there. So far, the cookie situation is looking good. So keep up the great work, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.